This word pops ever emerged, one on particle physics and one on cosmology. Cosmology for every man.
Yeah.
I haven't done those since February.
Right. And I think the idea with pops was that it could just be like really casual, fun, interesting. So, okay, well, that's all right.
She's still all the way.
Okay, your spy. Okay. All right. Well, in the interest of time, go ahead and get started. I'll keep track of myself with the stopwatch here. Hi. Thanks for being here, everybody. Hi. Come on in. Please. All right. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you to Andrea.
I'm right here.
For hosting these events. It's always so nice to be able to hear what faculty are doing. And I wanted to also thank these students, including Lina Ross, who is going to be here soon. And I want to thank them for trusting me with their time and taking a chance on my POPs class last spring, and for also being here today to talk about it. So thank you so much. And I thought with introductions, we could actually start with you all, if you wouldn't mind. Just tell us who you are, and we'll take it from there.
I'm Noah. I am an applied computer science major, and I have like 2 more semesters left at Hiram after this one. And I'm from the area too, like my family.
I'm Lorna. I'm a senior. I'm a computer writing major. That's me.
I'm Bethany. I am a biology and environmental studies major.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm a senior.
I'm a senior. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if there's anybody here who doesn't know me. I'm Debbie Kasper, professor of environmental studies and Howard S. Bissell Chair of the Liberal Arts. And hi, and come on, you can join us up here. This is Lina Ross. And I mentioned that title because I really like that part about the liberal arts. And I hope that the reasons why will become clear. So as I was thinking about this class and what I wanted to present and what I wanted to say here, I realized that this theme of liberal arts figured pretty prominently in it, in the way I thought about it and the way I taught it, which prompted me to reflect on, how I developed this interest. How did I get here from wherever I was? And I could go way back to my childhood. I won't, but I will tell you one little story. So picture it, August 1997. Some of you guys probably weren't even born yet. Is that true? So I was a new graduate student and I was attending my orientation, and this was at Penn State sociology program. And so we're sitting at these picnic tables in a park in State College, and the directors of the program asked us, as you guys have probably all done, to go around and introduce ourselves and to say a little bit about our interests and what we wanted to do with our degree. So I listened to all of these fellow students say what at the time I thought were really smart, impressive things. And most of them had something to do with, I want to work with so-and-so so I can write papers about such and such and affect policy. And that sounded really impressive to me. And I had nothing like that to say. And I didn't know exactly what to say. So I thought, okay, I'll just tell the truth. And what I said was, I want to teach at a liberal arts college someday. And you could almost hear the gasp. Because for those of you who might not know this, like I had no idea at the time, I wasn't supposed to want that. So when you go to a big institution, a big university, they don't want to train people to teach at small schools. They want to train, heavy hitting researchers and reproduce themselves. Thankfully, I never succumbed to any of their attempts to influence me to the other side. And I persisted in wanting to do that. And I've been doing that ever since. So here we are, and the seed of inspiration for why we're here today is this POPs class that I taught that we're going to talk about. But between that August day and me teaching this class, there are a lot of related threads that kind of connect those times. And so what I want to do today is to connect some of those threads that have influenced my work as a teacher and scholar and community member at a liberal arts college. So I would like to begin by showing how some of those threads can be woven into a bigger story. And I would like to say that as a way of giving a little bit of background about how this class came about. Okay, so since that fateful moment, I've discovered a lot of other reasons why I like liberal arts. And, you know, one of them has to do with the subject matter I study. So here's a throwback to a library forum I did. Hard to believe this was 2018. It's already quite a number of years ago. But I had so much fun giving this presentation. I couldn't resist sharing a few of these cool slides. And in this presentation, I got to geek out over all kinds of cool images and concepts like the 7 liberal arts and some of the debates that went on at the time. I won't get into explaining what this is, but some of those debates were quite violent. This character, by the way, was jailed and executed for his ideas that he espoused. And things aren't all that different, although hopefully, you know, we're not seeing too many jailings and executions. But the debates and the arguments go on, only with different accessories. This is the slide I used before. We had just gotten the iPad thing, so I had some fun playing around with that. So another reason I love the liberal arts, though, is due to its focus on human flourishing. A central pillar since ancient times. I mean, what's not to love? We might not use this language to talk about what we want out of life, but who doesn't want to flourish, right? So I really loved that focus. And in reflecting on all of this, I began to see just how seriously I took this and how much to heart I took it in the work that I have done. So I've been working in that direction in a number of ways since being here at Hiram. And so a few highlights of that include this, what you guys have now is a UCS 101. We used to have something called first year colloquium. And this was one that I developed in my early years here at Hiram. And notice this little note at the top. My 7-year-old daughter heard me talking about this class and taking my question very seriously, she decided to make a list. So this was her 7-year-old version of what makes for a good life. And I have to show you. I still have that list.
How old is she now?
She's a sophomore in college. It's so crazy. Well, I have it somewhere. I actually brought it. It's really faded. I should probably shellac it. And then just a fun fact, because I haven't really gotten to share this with anybody. I really loved this class. And I entered it in a syllabus competition, which was hosted by this organization called the Center for Humans and Nature. And I won. So in 2015, I got to go to New York and attend this event, which was at the Museum of Natural History. And the person moderating the event was Krista Tippett, and I got to have dinner with her. So that's my little claim to fame. If you don't know who she is, she's a host of a longtime radio and now podcast program called On Being. And it's really great. You should check it out. But so that's my little claim to fame here related to this class. Since that time, I've taught lots of other classes that touch on themes of well-being, resilience, and health at environmental and societal and individual levels. I have also taken a lot of trainings in permaculture design, meditation instruction, soil biology, and most recently nutrition therapy. Hi, Lou. And I've used a lot of the things that I've learned in here in various classes and offered services at the college. So I've tried to benefit the college in lots of ways through what I'm learning. And I want to pause here just to say, if you guys ever hear somebody talk about becoming a lifetime learner, and it sounds like a cliche, I want you to know we take that really seriously here, and we really do that. So since that time, many of these things have come together in a current project which is the field station farm project that is in development right now with my partner in crime over there. That's Tim. Say hello. So this project brings all of this and more together in ways really meant to promote well-being, you might say, from the ground up. That's the way we're thinking about it, starting with the soil. So all of this has come together also in my current scholarship, which studies well-being in relation to another element of Hiram's mission. By the way, is there anybody in here who can recite our mission? Any students who know it? Probably hanging on the wall somewhere. Okay. Well, the title of this talk, maybe you caught it, comes from our mission, actually. These are two things that are included in it. So this other aspect of our mission, the capacity to deal with the challenges of the times, this is also something we take very seriously. And today, I want to emphasize one really important point. And if you take away nothing else, I want you to remember this, that these two things are interdependent and that you can't really have one without the other. That's what I hope to convince you of anyway. So we have a curriculum, you may have noticed, that focuses on challenges. This has been the way that our curriculum has developed in recent years. And I think it's pretty distinct, and it's a really interesting angle that Hiram takes, and it opens us up to all kinds of interesting possibilities. And I would like to suggest that this curriculum could be supplemented and well-served, and our students could be really well-served if we also gave explicit attention to this other dimension in some ways. So that's what we're going to be talking about here. So I would love to have us explore together what that could mean for us here. And so I'm going to just give you a little bit more of an introduction, and then we're going to turn it over and hear from the students, and then we're going to open it up for some conversation. So looking forward to hearing from all of you. Okay, so to set up this conversation, I just want to make 5 very simple points. They're going to be really high level, very general. I'm going to skip a lot of details, but I hope they'll be pretty clear. Okay, so the first point is we have plenty of challenges. Like, I don't think anyone at Hiram is worried about running out of topics to cover in the urgent challenge curriculum. At, again, environmental, societal, individual levels, there's a lot to work with here. Need I say more? Yeah, probably not. I'll just say a tiny bit more. Working in the world of environmental studies as I do, I'm constantly steeped in these very grand challenges and problems. So I'm kind of used to it. Actually, you want to hear a funny story about that? So my PhD is in sociology, and my first job was as a sociology professor. And after a couple of years, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm reading about problems, I'm teaching about problems, and I'm writing about problems all the time. This is so depressing. I don't think I can continue in this line of work. I should find something more optimistic. And here I am in environmental studies. So needless to say, there's lots going on here. But no matter who you are or what you do, unless you live under a rock, you're probably well aware of some of the big crises that are unfolding. And, you know, as much as people might disagree about which ones are more important or who's responsible for what or what we should do about them, I don't think there's almost anybody who doesn't feel some sense of like something's gone wrong somewhere, right? So we've got challenges. We got that part covered. But one of the challenges we have, which maybe you've heard something about, is a crisis of well-being, okay? You know, as a parent, as a teacher, as a citizen, and basically just as a person with senses, it's very easy to see how individuals are struggling with this. I can see it in my own life, and I can see it all around me. And I've been really encouraged lately to see people in high-level positions, like our Surgeon General, for example, who have really made this a priority. I also want to add a caveat here to say, if you don't feel this, If you feel great, that's awesome. I don't want to make the assumption that everybody is in crisis all the time. That's not true. So if you're generally doing well, keep doing what you're doing. That's awesome. But we have, pretty staggering numbers of people who are feeling really uneasy and really unwell in a lot of ways. So barely a day goes by, I think, without some new story in the news about people's physical and mental health, loneliness, anxiety, or any number of other things, despair. And many of these problems, you may not be aware of this, but in the world of higher ed, people are scrambling to figure out what to do and how to help. Mostly students, lots of organizations and institutions are also paying a lot of attention to this. And they're working really hard and they're doing their best, right? There's more talk about it. There's more attention given to it. There's more programming around it. And when I say it, I think largely the focus has been on the mental health aspect of all of this. To me, the most interesting question is why? Why is this? What's going on? That's a big question, and there's lots of reasons. But one of the reasons that we can say relates to point number one, which is there's a sense of worry and experiences related to some of the really big crises that we have unfolding. Now, in the world of environmental studies, as my colleague over here, Professor Sarah maybe can attest, this is old news to us. We've been dealing with this for a long time. It's really can be jarring, especially for students hearing about major issues for the first time. It's very upsetting, right? As it well should be for a normal human hearing bad news. So we've been on the case for a while, always trying to figure out ways to help support students in learning what it is they're learning. But recently this has taken another turn and we've been paying much more attention. There have been all kinds of programs about climate anxiety and grief counseling and hope therapy and all kinds of stuff. But what we're seeing is that whatever it is we're doing, I don't mean us, I mean writ large, it's not doing the trick, right? We're not achieving the goals that we plan to. And this is also the case in the larger picture beyond environmental studies, where we see that the standard approach, right? The talk, the attention, the programming, it's not only not helping in the ways that we hope that it might, in some cases, it's also making things worse. So this is from a New York Times article last year, which features some of the more recent research about this. Now, this is a big subject and we don't have time to delve into it. And it might be really disheartening to hear this, especially from people in a position who are really trying to do helpful things. But, to my mind, why wouldn't we want to know about this? We want to know, well, what's not working? What can we do better? Where are the opportunities? So I think this is really valuable to have a sense of. But here's a really important point. And students, take note of this. Point number 3 is that it's just not you. It's not just young people who are dealing with this, right? I could say a lot about this, and I won't press any of the less young people in the room to share their experiences. But last March, I polled a large number of colleagues, of professionals in these socio-environmental spaces in my networks. And I was really interested in hearing how their experiences doing this work have impacted their lives and aspects of their well-being. And I got responses from a really great variety of people, from researchers and teachers, policymakers, activists, artists, all kinds of folks, ranging from people who are just starting in this work all the way up to people who have been doing it for more than 40 years. So a really great variety. And the one question I asked was, I asked 6 questions. This was one of them. What are the biggest personal challenges in doing this work? And here's what they had to say. This is just a representative sample of their responses. It's a lot to read, so I'll highlight a few things that actually highlight themes that came in from across the board from lots of other respondents. So there was a lot of mentions of feeling overwhelmed and helpless, you know, frustrated with trying to fit everything in, the inability to know when to stop working, like to always be working, feeling like it's never enough, feeling like you need to use your time in those ways, rather than taking care of yourself and your family, negative impact on relationships and enjoyment of life, and also this sense of like, but I can't stop because it's so important. So there was a lot of people who used the word stuck. I feel stuck. And obviously, you know, lots of effects of stress. So has anyone in this room ever felt any one of these things? Do we have a unanimous vote? Okay, yeah, right? I share this not to bum you out, because they also had a lot of positive things to say, but I share it for two reasons. One is that part of feeling better, I think oftentimes the very first step is knowing you're not alone. Because it's so easy to feel like, must be me, there's something wrong with me, right? But no, this is widespread. And the other reason I share it is because in all of the more hopeful comments that they made about what they think is possible, all of those possibilities hinged on their sense of the potential that they could feel better, and that would allow them to continue their work. So there was this idea that, you know, feeling better is an essential piece of this, which brings us to point 4. And I think it's important to mention a caveat about challenges, right? Some of the things that keep us up at night are in principle preventable, but challenges themselves in life are not. Sorry to make that spoiler alert. Life will always come with challenges, and that's inevitable. So to be able to effectively face them requires some degree of overall well-being, right? Which I define as well-being in all of the main dimensions of our lives, right? You could colloquially describe this as mind, body, and spirit, for example. This is a little bit of how I define these terms in our class. So, you know, when it comes to this, that we need some overall degree of well-being in order to be up to the challenges that life will throw at us, I'm not talking about perfection. I'm not saying we have to be super duper healthy in all of these ways, but just in a general way, well enough to be able to go about our business of life. Because I think we can all agree that everything feels harder when you're feeling really confused or have a chaotic mind, or when you're feeling really unwell physically, or when you have a sense of meaninglessness and can't quite figure out what the purpose of what you think you're supposed to be doing is, right? That makes everything harder. So well-being in this sense is essential. And in turn, brings me to my last point. This work, this activity of actually facing challenges, dealing with hard stuff, is also, I argue, an essential ingredient of our well-being. And I say this for at least two reasons. One is that the skills and the confidence that come with overcoming personal challenges and doing hard things are part of developing into a fully functional, flourishing, mature human, right? Just like all of our physical systems need some kind of stress to develop. Overall in life, doing hard things is what gives us the confidence to know that we can do more. So that's really important. But also that dedicating our energy and our talents to addressing some of these larger scale challenges, for example, to prevent or mitigate problems, to relieve other people's suffering, to have a positive impact, to shape a brighter future, even in some small way. All of that is also part of living well. So this was something we talked about at my teach-in session recently. Michaela, you were there, yeah? So we discussed the role of service in well-being, which incidentally is another element of Hiram's mission, the social responsibility piece. And I recently posted about this conversation on my blog. So if you want to hear what I had to say about you guys, you need to check that out. So in this conversation, we covered a lot of different ground, but one of the things that came out was that students noticed how the lion's share of attention in self-care rhetoric is really devoted to kind of like self-preservation and individual stress reduction, which is totally understandable. Because we want to feel better, right? There's an acute crisis, and feeling better is no small thing. So I don't want to minimize that at all. It's a crucial first step, but as psychology researcher Thatcher Keltner, who studies awe at Berkeley, the way he puts it, I think is really interesting. He says that that first step is remedial, and we need so much more than that. What we need is to deal with our larger crisis, which is a crisis of meaning, of that purpose that I mentioned. This crisis in its modern forms has been on our radar for a long time, well over a century. I probably argue at least two. We've seen a lot of writing about it, but it's been kind of marginal in that time. And recently, a lot of people are starting to talk about this and be much more vocal in public places, at least in the circles that I hang out in. So all of this connects with my teaching in different ways, and it connects with some of the writing that I'm doing right now, working on this theme of meaning for a paper in the Journal of Environmental Studies and Sciences. And it's the subject of a new book that I'm working on. In the larger literature of transition, right, which refers to the world as we know it right now and how we get to what's beyond it. So in that larger literature in general, I'm really interested in exploring how can we best equip people to be able to contribute to shaping the future in ways that, to shaping a better future in ways that also create greater well-being today. That's the question that really drives me, which brings me to this class. So this was the name and the description of the course that I taught last spring, introduced it for the first time. In case you're interested, here are the learning goals. And this class served as a testing ground for some of these ideas that we talked about. How can we feel better? What can we do about it? And so it was 12 weeks. We met weekly. The really nice thing about it was we met in the chapel. Thank you, Reverend McCray, for giving us access to that, which was a really cool space to be in. And every week we tried out one or two different strategies in each area of mind, body, and spirit. And so we did some stuff together. Students did some stuff on their own. I gave them some challenges. And I'm going to turn it over to them so they can say a little bit about their experience of the class. And from there, you know, the idea is really to hear from you all about what you think about all of this and opportunities to help us all flourish in life in ways that support all kinds of other goals, academic and beyond. So I'll turn it over to you all.
My name is Lina. Not sure how much you introduced me. I came from my other pops class for this semester.
Oh, really? What is it?
Hiking. I walk in the woods with Justin and Bethany. Also very good for me. But besides that, my name is Lina Ross. I am a third year English major. I'm a minor in gender studies and film. And yeah, I think that a lot of the things that you talked about, really big emotions like hopelessness, sadness, fear, loneliness, those can be really overwhelming, especially for young people, whether it's like really big world events, global events like global warming, climate change that make you feel those things, or if it's something small that's happening in your personal life that definitely has a big effect on people. And you know, as like students, we just kind of came out of high school. It's you don't always know how to deal with those big emotions, or kind of like cope with them at least and move past, and also be a full-time student and maybe also have a part-time job. But yeah, doing this class, it really helped me to understand a few things about well-being. I think that we a lot of times get stuck in the conversation about it. A lot of times it's like, with my well-being, that means that I have to go somewhere else in order to improve my well-being. That means that I need to buy like the newest like form of skincare, or that means that I need to go see this person and do this thing. But that's not always the case. I think that this class really helped me to better understand that a lot of ways in well-being comes within yourself. It's a toolkit and that you can build yourself. It's a lot of skills that you can learn, utilize over time, that you can have no matter what, whether it's one day that I use like deep breathing, or another day that I, just be mindful as I walk to class. There are a lot of different things that help us to improve that within ourselves and then build that over time. And then, yeah, those different skills can be helpful in different situations. And it's just something that you can sort of develop and, of course, flourish over time as you experience different challenges, or, improve in certain ways, one or another. But yeah, I really thought that it was, no matter what your journey of self-care is, you can kind of understand that whether you like knew about meditation before, if you've never meditated in your life, it's like you can always have that within yourself, and knowing those skills and being able to use that.
So I think the biggest thing I took away is like all the different ways you can practice like self-reflection in your everyday life. And journaling we practice, and just like taking a walk in the woods and thinking about your life and how your day's going. I think it really helped me like reset on my emotions, especially if I was feeling like a lot of big emotions and stuff. And I was like, write everything down how I was feeling, and then take a step back and then feel, okay, here's what I'm feeling, and then I could come up with strategies and how to improve my situation or the challenge that I was facing, which was really cool. I really enjoyed the meditation too. That's a really great meditation teacher. I feel like I've had limited success with meditation in the past, but like having Kasper like hold my hand and walk me through it was really cool. I think there's just a lot of little things that I still do in my day-to-day life that I took from this class that helped improve my mental well-being. And I know come out of class that taught us all those things. And, like, you usually kind of have to go out of your way to find these different strategies. It was great to have a class where Kasper, like, she just wanted to see you be better. And, like all I really had to do was try. And, like, yeah, great job. Yeah, I still make a morning routine kind of based on what Kasper's teaching.
All right.
I drink so much tea now.
This is one of their projects. They created a morning routine. That's great.
So I would say what I took the most from the class was kind of like split into like two categories. I'd say first is like process. So the way that the class was like set up was every week we would kind of have a new challenge of well-being, and Professor Kasper made a very cute weekly workbook for us that we could print out or use digitally. and we would try that new challenge. And you know, what did I say? I said process and content or something like that. That's what I meant to say anyway. So process and content. And like, so the content of what we learned every week was really impactful, you know, like, Lina and Bethany both like mentioned, like we had like 1 week on hydration where we learned how important water is for us, but also how we get that water and, you know, what we're doing it with and the container we're keeping it in, or, you know, how to actually be hydrated and what that means for each of us as an individual, you know, and that's important because apparently people are made up of mostly water. And so, you know, you gotta keep it in you or something. Or like we had like our morning routine week where we learned about different ways to, you know, utilize the time after we wake up to impact our day positively. And you know, so like those specific weekly content points were really great because it just exposed us to things maybe we didn't know about, or things that we hadn't personally done or hadn't really tried to do. I think that's kind of like the step one, right? So like somebody maybe is like heard of meditation, but maybe they haven't heard of the form of meditation that Professor Kasper like instructs in, or they haven't really had luck doing it, or they've been nervous about it. And so like really just being exposed to it and being put in a situation where you're having to try it, like those content-based things that a lot of us knew would be good for us. Like, I know I should be drinking water, and I know I should not get on my phone right after I wake up for 30 minutes or something like, but it, you know, the content was really important. But I think also the process was really impactful because it was focused mostly in reflection, like Bethany noticed or mentioned, and I think that was really huge for me in terms of like just like opening up a new perspective for my life. And the fact that like we're talking about things in your body or in your mind or in the way you interact with the world that you maybe have like literally never considered before, you know, like the kinds of like thought work that we did and with working with just literally the way that we think or what we're thinking about and how we kind of like manage that or handle those thoughts. Like that kind of like reflection was very brand new to me. You know, the idea that I could like have a thought and like I don't really care about it, or it doesn't like, you know, define me or something like that. You know, that itself is an important trait, but also the idea that there's a new way I could look at my relationship to the world means that every day I'm more open to those things, and to the thing I'm more open to, you know, scrutinizing my relationship with how I live in the world, so to say. So I would say like the content, the things we learned, you know, I got sick this week, had some elderberry, feeling a little bit better, you know, content really important, but also just like the actual process of how to actually earn a new habit and how to recognize what you do every day and, you know, reflect on it, I would say was really important.
So I would say that there were a couple things that I took away from the class, like the different things that we learned about, like breath work, meditation, spending time out in nature, nightly journaling, just to sort of like reflect on what's meaningful to you in your life. Those were all practices that help at different times. I don't always keep up the most consistent schedule for all of them, but they all sort of help when your mind is just like going faster than you might want it to. And then also, it was just like really nice to be able to meet with the same group of people every week in like a calming space and sort of look at things in a different way than we normally do in our day-to-day life. It was almost like a little break or a pause. And like, I don't know, I just sort of feel like even this meeting or this presentation is like sort of the same feeling that you want to have.
Oh, nice. And I should say that this is about half of the class. Some of them graduated, aren't here. I I love what each of you said, and I'd love to elaborate and say more, but I want to offer an opportunity if anybody has questions about anything that they said, or we can just pick it up from there. Yeah.
So one of the things that I find, and one of the things that I think has been interesting over the past, I guess, like 20, 30 years, is there's been this real focus on being empathetic, right? But empathy is one of those things, it's like, it's double-edged sword, because if you feel everything, it can drag you down. And so I think it's really important for people to build up like a wall too, to like protect yourself from being dragged down too much by all of the stuff. If you're feeling everything, you know, people have limits and they have to be able to build those up to be sympathetic to people, but not like feel miserable because you're taking all of this stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I think it's been written a lot in different professions, especially healthcare is one. They talk about compassion fatigue, right? Yeah, Annie, you probably know lots about that. And anybody who is a very like sensitive, porous, feeling kind of person probably knows the effects of that very well. So I think that it is important. I love the way you described it. I would use the word titrate. Like it's important to kind of build your capacity for that. And I would also add that when you look at that question from different cultural lenses through different religious perspectives, you get some insights on tools and ways of thinking about it that actually expand your capacity and make you more of, you know, you think about a lightning rod and can just like conduct the electricity and then ground it so that you're not like holding it all until you explode and die.
Buddhism is very focused on feeling compassion, but not doing things, but not feeling things, because it can drag you down.
Yeah, they have this practice called Tonglen. It's a type of meditation where you're picturing lots of different people, starting with people you love, to people you like, to strangers, to people who they would call obstacle makers, the people who are really difficult in your life. And you practice taking in all of their suffering and giving them all of your light and joy and calm. And I think what I've read and heard teachers say is that a lot of Westerners approach that practice initially with fear. Like, oh no, I can't do that. But then they learn, like you say, they kind of learn a way to process all of that when they have it's kind of a different perspective on it. But it's an excellent point. I love that. And it relates to a lot of what we did, which is, I think, so much of what you all beautifully touched on, just kind of building your capacities and creating self-awareness around a lot of different things. Yeah.
So for any one of you, experience of this class, now sort of living with this knowledge for many months, you could write a letter to your younger self, say your 16-year-old self or your 12-year-old self. What advice?
I would probably just tell her to get rid of her cell phone. I think that like relationship with our phone that we were able to like examine more in the class, and then also like Lina and I, and also I think like 100 million other people are taking Professor Revold's Breaking Up with Your Phone this semester. That which is also another POPs course, and I mean, like it's just very good to not have that codependent relationship with your phone. And I think that would have made a really big impact on me at 16 or 12 or 18 or 19 or 21.
And people survive in this world without these devices.
Which I don't think I could have realized, you know, but it's true.
What's in human history?
I'll let you think about that. I just want to respond to that comment because it's funny. Just last night, I don't normally check email in the evening, but I happened to have my computer open and I looked at my email and there was this whole slew of tasks and things people were asking me to do. And I said to my husband, can you even imagine what it must have been like to be a professor when I was in college in the 90s? In 1996, when this didn't exist. What would their days be like? I mean, sure, you get the odd memorandum in your mailbox and a phone call here and there, but seriously, what? You could just read, talk to people, and write? And I was like, I just couldn't fathom it. I get very jealous of those 1990s professors of mine. So, okay, back to your 12-year-old self.
Or 16, I guess I have an answer. I guess I would say that like struggling with your mental health isn't anything to be ashamed of, and that like, you know, there's like, yeah, like you have the ability to take it in and then like, you know, reflect and sense your feelings. And also that like you have people around you that like want to talk and stuff and like, share your emotions with each other. And it's really great.
I think I would probably tell myself, like that things get better, but then that they also get worse, but then that they also get better, and that it's a cycle, and that you only experience that through living, which is like not a monumental idea, but it is when you're 12 and you've only lived really, like not very long. Because yeah, I mean, I've just had experiences where you know, you're living and it's like, wow, actually things get better and everything is great. And then they got like worse again. And I'm like, wait, I thought things were supposed to get better. Because that's what people tell you. But then even when you're in the worst, you have to remember that they get better, and you know, to get yourself to the better well-being, use those tools. It's helpful. It's something that is like, it feels like if I told my 12-year-old self that, I would be like, yeah, of course they do. Like, of course things are gonna pass. Like, of course this too shall pass. But it will definitely. It's just true.
I love that you said that. And I want to add another, Bethany, what you said was great. And I want to add also, there's no shame in having very common revelations. Like when you have a revelation and then you think, duh, of course I should know that. Like, no, we have to discover so many of these things through experience. And I mean, that fact alone, that life is like this, right? There's good days and bad days. Tom Petty said it best, I think. Some days are diamonds, some days are rocks. And you don't know that until you've lived long enough. And even then, people can tell you there are entire religious systems based on that premise. And even so, we need reminding constantly. So no shame in it, and great to be reminded of in whatever ways we can. I love that.
I think community has greater impact or relevance, I suppose, now than maybe it did prior. I'm always impressed with the students in my class, how they are so open about things with me and with each other. And so I wonder, it seems like you guys had like group tasks or individual kind of practices on your own or practices together. Did you find either to be harder or easier to do things with groups or partners, or did you prefer to do things individually?
I would say that I think it was really nice to have the feeling of having the community around you to do these things. So even if they were individual tasks, to be able to meet up every week and talk about it and what our experiences were like and how they were similar and how they were different. I think that we had a lot of value. And that was also, I didn't raise my hand at first for like the levity of yourself, but I think that's sort of the gist of what I would say too, is just like when you have hard feelings, don't just try to deal with it on your own. Because other people are sharing.
I think also, I agree with Noah. I think that being with the like community of the class was like made each of the tasks and challenges easier every week. But I also think that it's important to note that there was like, what, there was like 7 of us, 6, I can't count very well.
7 or 8.
7 or 8, and they were all like some of my closest friends. So there was no one in there that like I had already spent a lot of time with outside of class, and I didn't like already have their numbers saved in my phone to like text and talk to them about this stuff already. But some people I became closer with and like know much better. But it was also, I mean, you don't really have strangers at Hiram very much, but if there were strangers, the people in the class weren't really what you would consider a Hiram stranger.
I saw Sydney had a question.
I kind of have 2 questions, but the first one was, what were some of your favorite processes that maybe Kasper taught you? I know you've listened to quite a few of them, but what were like your favorite or the one that worked best for you? And then Professor Kasper, when you were teaching them, how did they affect your life? I know you like read about them and taught them, but how teaching them, how did that affect you?
Thanks for that. I'll save that question for after. And I polled you guys about this, so you did write something about your favorites. I don't know if you remember, but I'll just.
I really liked like the outdoor meditation that she taught us. I thought that was really cool. Like I still do that. Like I'll go out into the woods and I'll just like take a minute, just like feel my feet walking the ground, hear the birds, let my thoughts sort of pass.
I think one that stuck out to me was the box breathing. So it's just breathing at like specific intervals to sort of be able to calm yourself down, because you can do that anywhere, anytime. So that was definitely helpful. And it helps with like sort of acute stress, like it's a direct short-term solution.
To re-regulate your nervous system. Yeah.
I don't know if this is what I wrote in our class reflection, but I want to talk about it, which is just something in terms of like the process. So in the classroom, usually we would have like some form of like lecture / conversation, and Professor Kasper would have handmade some very nice,
Flip charts.
and kind of go into some of like the science and cultural backings for what we were doing. Like I think what sticks out to me the most like is when we did like our sleep challenge, and it was like, okay, let's try to get sleep and get it in the right ways, and how are you feeling, and you know what I mean. And I think I had, everybody knows that you're supposed to be getting more sleep than you are getting, or maybe less sleep than you're getting, maybe you're sleeping too much or something. But it was very interesting to hear kind of like these more like fact-based things rather than like shame-based things about like you shouldn't be on your phone at 1 a.m. looking at things on your phone at 1 a.m. It's like, I know, I feel so bad, but it was really nice to like, instead of like being angry at myself, to be like, well, this is the blue light and this is doing this to my brain right now. And also, anyway, so like that was really cool. I liked having some of the like cultural and scientific things to aid me.
I will say that I have drank a glass of water every morning that I've woken up since you said that, like waking up in the wake, but because you feel so bad in the morning is like mild dehydration. I took that to like my heart and soul, and I'm like, I have a solution, and now I drink water every morning. Not that that's my favorite process, but kind of like Lorna is saying, I do love learning about like, oh, that's how our body works, and that makes sense, and that's why I should take care of it in that way, and that's why people say that, and I'll stop rolling my eyes at that because it's actually good for me. So yeah, we learned about things like that, or like we learned about like brain waves at one point, which I didn't fully grasp and could not retell you. But like it was cool to learn like, oh, in the morning you have like these brain waves, and then like at this time of day like these waves kick in, and it's like it's very helpful to know like, yeah, that's why you shouldn't like go on your phone like within the first like 30 seconds of waking up, even though it's your alarm, like learning about those things. And yeah, a lot of the group activities as well were very fun. Like we did a group like outdoor meditation, indoor meditation as well, and then yeah, like getting sillies out, like things like that was fun. Yeah, just like doing things as a collective that you could like go home and take and use later that I really like that.
And I want to just mention, because I remember unanimously, everybody mentioned one thing among others that was their favorite. And this gets to your point, Annie, about community. We also had a community dinner at Hiram alumni's house, who also has since become the mayor. And she's a chef. And she cooks these fabulous meals for people on Wednesday nights, and people gather. And I asked if I could buy dinner for my students, and I was gonna have boxes and get them packaged up. She's like, oh no, have them come over, have them join us for dinner. So we got to hang out with all the who's who of Hiram, all of these, you know, ranging in age, some former faculty, some former students, some lots of neighbors. And I don't know if you remember that, but you all mentioned that in your survey, that was one of the best parts.
I remember.
Which gets to your point about being with other people and the community aspect of it. Anybody else want to say anything before I answer part 2? That's a really good question, Sydney. And I'll probably think of all kinds of better things to say later. But what I would say for now is that, have you ever heard the saying, like, if you want to learn something well, teach it? I feel like teaching these things like really forced me to recommit to them. It reminded me of why I want to do those things in my own life. And it was also really inspiring to see how excited they were getting about it, which got me even more excited about some of this stuff. And yeah, I think that was probably the biggest outcome for me. And it got me thinking about, ooh, what's possible? What more could we do? So thank you. Yeah, Michaela.
What was something that you guys were skeptical about, and you were like, there is no way that this would help me at all?
Oh, I love that question.
For me, it was the specific like breathing exercises, like box breathing or like 4-7-8, you know, because I've done like various types of therapy since I was like in middle school, and one of like the pillars is like this like a mindfulness, you know, doctrine and like breathing exercises. Like I know what box breathing is. I see those like Instagram infographics all the time about, you know, doing it and following the GIF and breathing. And I had literally done it for so many times, and like sometimes it would help or something, but I don't know if it was just like something clicking or like a difference in the way the professor Kasper taught it, or just maybe I was like ready to accept it. But like now I'm like box breathing or like doing some of the other like personal breathing exercises all the time, and it is like actually so helpful, even though I fully was like skeptical brain, like I've done this before, I'm not new to this, and it doesn't really work, and it does work, at least now.
For me, it was like the morning routine. Like I feel like Kasper was like, all right, we're gonna try this for 1 week. And I was like, no, I'm not a morning person. I'm just gonna be like sitting there being like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. You know, it's like a really nice, it's become like a really nice period of time for me to like have just like sit by myself and have some reflection, drink some tea because I'm not drinking coffee. And just,
That wasn't my fault. I didn't tell you. I don't want anyone else to feel pressured. Like you have to answer totally, you can if you want to, but I just want to say, I love that question, Michaela, because I tend to be, I'm not a cynical person, but I can be super critical. Like I'm a Libra. There's some woo for you. And no, I tend to experience things in this very balanced way, where things that I might totally embrace on the one hand, there's another part of me like rolling my eyes and going, oh my gosh, here I go again. So like, I think that can be valuable. And it's actually part of being a critical thinker and not just like accepting everything that comes your way. And it's also super valuable to know that the things you assume you're gonna hate, whether it's a class or a professor or a job or an activity, you might just find out that you really like it. And it's worth getting past, facing the challenge of that aversion, getting past it so that you can discover more about what's actually interesting and helpful and good for you. So it's a great question. Did you guys think of anything
That's difficult.
else?
Well, I didn't really have much time to be skeptical about this because it was an activity that we would do like at the beginning of class. We would just sort of slap all over our bodies a little bit to like get some energy going and then to release it. And it seemed crazy, like especially the first time we were doing it, but it definitely did have like a noticeable, like a relaxing quality. So, yeah.
You never let on that you thought it was crazy.
Like after the first time.
Yeah.
I sort of realized that he wasn't going crazy.
Love that. Yeah.
So like a lot of you touched on like being like writing those self-reflections and like the journaling. And I know like myself and a lot of like other young people really have the problem of becoming like self-aware of like our position in the environment and culturally and socially. So like, was there anything like, okay, don't have to get too personal, but was there anything like in your journals or your self-reflections that you did like approach with that in a way?
I think that like to the point of like really like hyper aware or something, really self-aware, like self-critical or like conscious. I think that actually writing out my thoughts, specifically like you would do like a morning like dump, you spend 5 minutes and write about the things you were thinking, or like we would like work through like difficult, critical thinking, whatever. And I think something that I kind of realized is I actually wasn't like as self-aware as I had like told myself I was, or like I actually wasn't as like enlightened about like where I had told myself that actually this problem was unsolvable because I already knew that it was a problem. I already knew that I was being crazy or something. Like actually I hadn't thought about it as deeply as I thought I was. And like there was a lot more to discover once I just took those thoughts from my brain and put them on paper. So I think it was just understanding that, when you're young, some people grow out of it, I guess some people don't, you kind of just assume that you know everything. And I think that it was helpful to, put that in your face that you don't.
Some people definitely don't grow out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ash.
This could be a question for you guys or for you. I feel like the plight of the student is taking everything so seriously, and like this seems like such like a spiritual class, or like these ideas that are like almost like less serious, like slapping yourself via energy. And I just like wonder if like how the course in a way was like set up to keep it from feeling like a tradition, like to keep that anxiety or like that stress. Like you mentioned, like there was lecture, but it also seems like there's a lot of activity. I just wonder like how you kind of kept yourself motivated to keep doing like this like almost like fun stuff, like the exercises, and not just like taking it too seriously that you're just doing it for like credit.
I think a lot of that had to do with like where we were meeting too, because we were in the chapel, like the all faith chapel, and so we would all take our shoes off before we came in, and we had like meditation pads sitting on the floor.
You didn't have to sit on the floor, but you do have to take your shoes off. That's a rule of the chapel, which is great.
So it was a more relaxed environment to start out with. And then, yeah, also that we all like knew each other already, were friends. It made it a really easy situation to sort of not take way too seriously.
Okay, so I have
Yeah.
a question.
Oh,
So-
I saw,
Oh, I'm
sorry,
sorry.
I saw
Go
one more student
Yeah,
and
go
then
for it.
Carter.
Has taking that like opened your mind up to wanting to know more, I guess different breathing and exercises, and like, have you learned more about it outside of class too?
I would say that a lot of it was stuff I was sort of already curious about. So the class gave me like a new perspective or some new things to learn. I think that the lack of like meeting with a group of the routine of that, sort of, like, after the class ended, I would keep up on everything as well as I did.
Yeah, so I think that for me personally, a lot of what I'm still trying to do, because we're not even like, you know, a year out from the course, is like still just trying to like build those habits. It's like it's harder, I think, to build habits when your schedule changes every semester. So it's like just still trying to like build those things. But like I mentioned, Lina and I are both taking these remotes like break with your phone, which I 100% am doing because of like the relationship challenge we did during this class. You know, so that's like another that yeah, I guess yes, that thing. But in terms of like reading, or it's like I'm still trying to be like, okay, I need to drink water every day. I'm not like I'm not like a hydration genius now.
So my thought was, when you had the New York Times article up and it said about, the things that we're trying around well-being and mental health aren't really working. Like, and I don't even know if this is really a question, but is there part of what you did or the way you did it that is able to be replicated in some way that would like be able to, you know, elicit the same kind of, like, I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking like, I want to take this class. It sounds awesome. And I totally have the same perspective, you know, Lorna, you said about like, you know, I'll be on TikTok or Instagram and you see all those things and you think I should be doing that. I should be doing that. And so like, how do you go from knowing what you should do and watching it to actually like participating in it? And like, maybe the community is a part of that, but like what, I don't know, like people get together to exercise and stuff. Is this like a thing that could be something like a new way of approaching, you know, mental health? Or maybe it's not new, but.
Yeah, no, I'll say two things about that. The first is to your comment about scrolling and feeling like I should do that. And this gets at your question also, Ash, which is one of the things I wanted to be really careful about was not to give the impression like you should be doing all of these things every day consistently all the time. I wanted to give them like a buffet to sample and try some things, and whatever works, keep it, whatever doesn't, forget about it. And I think it's really important when we're, especially if we're interested in this stuff, and the algorithm just gives you that nonstop, and then you start stressing out about all the things you should be doing. So don't let that happen. I certainly don't presume to have like cracked any code or solved any major problems. I think there's a lot of people doing interesting research on well-being and happiness and health that come at it from other angles. I think the one thing I would say is that this is why I think the flourishing and the challenging are so interdependent, because the standard approach on average, and then I know there's a lot of variety here, but on average, it tends to be very deficit focused. Like we're starting with the problem. Dun, 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 there's a problem, right? And it starts very negatively. And I think that there's room for coming at it from a different direction. And I think, Lina, you spoke to this. One of the, I think maybe I even say this here somewhere, but one of my goals was to help them see the power they already have. But to be very empowering in terms of all of these things I can already do. My body knows how to do these things. I just need to help it along. I think there's tons of opportunities to, like I said earlier, to be more systematic and offer things like this in a way that would serve more people. And I have some thoughts about that. But so yeah, I think there's a lot there.
I have a question for Lorna. So you're a creative writing major, and you had to do some writing, like journaling and stuff for this class. Did that experience of doing those things, kind of going through that process, help you with your creative writing?
I think that it helped in the sense that I was writing more, and I think that like as a writing student, you're writing a lot of the time, and you can kind of be like, this art and craft and that I'm learning to be a part of or whatever, you also forget that writing is that like communication part of things. So like journaling is a lot different than like writing creatively. And I think that I've kept a journal since I was like, I don't know, since I like knew how to read sort of. But I kind of grew like an aversion to that a little bit in terms of like, I actually already wrote a lot today and I don't want to sit and write for 30 more minutes, just about how my stupid day went. But like, I think that it made me like it a little bit more and kind of be able to balance that. I don't know if it made me a better writer, but it made me feel better.
My thought download assignments were only 5 minutes for the record.
Well, I would say, to be honest, I did also do like a lot more afterwards. Like in the mornings, they were 5 minutes and I did keep track of that. But I also was like, wait, I want to try.
Yeah. Speaking of time, we probably have to wrap up. I don't want to keep anybody past their time. So if you need to get going, that's fine. Do we have any other burning questions in the room? Conversation. Well, I want to thank you all for coming and I want to especially thank you guys